Hi everyone, welcome back. So I'll walk you through solving this question today, the solution to this question. 2022 May June paper 4. Um, we'll solve question 1. And for question 1, we need a source file, which is iscore.txt. So you know this should be in a folder. So the first thing to do is to open the folder to your Visual Studio Code. So the source file is saved here, iscore.txt. So I have to open this folder into Visual Studio Code. So the first thing to do after launching your Visual Studio Code, you click on this File Explorer in case if you have forgotten. Then you click on Open Folder. Then you go to the path or the folder or the location where the file is. You can see the file, source file. Then you click on Select Folder. Then it has been opened. You can check your file. So this is the file, okay? But it's not necessary to check them. So now the next, so let's create a new file, Python file. So the next thing is save. You can save your work to the same location if you like. So let me just say 2022 paper 4. Then you click on save. So now we can now solve the question. So the question states, don't forget, before you solve anything, the first thing to do is to read the instruction. Read the instruction before you start, okay? Now, a source file is used to answer question 1. The file is called iscore.txt. Then we have put that into the Visual Studio Code. Now, the text file iscore.txt stores the players who have scored the 10 top scores in the game in descending order of scores. You can see it. So it stores the player who have scored the top 10 scores in the game in descending order of score. The file stores 3-character name of player and their integer score in the order player score. So for example, the top player in the file is FYI, is the name, and 10,000 is the score. So to confirm that, if you don't understand that well, you can go to the text file to open. You can see FYI 10,000. So this is the name of the player. This is the score, name, score. You can see it is open in descending order of what? Of score. Okay. So now that we understand that, so let's go back to the question. So the program reads in the data from the iscore.txt. Reads in the data from iscore.txt. So are we asked to write a code? No, it is just an instruction. So you don't just start typing. Read the instruction, understand the instruction. It is you only write a code when you are asked to write. If you are not asked to write, don't write. Most students do this mistake. When they read, the program reads in data, then they start to type. The question have not asked you to type a code. The question has not asked you to write a code. It's giving an instruction. So don't rush or don't be eager to start typing. It is when you say write a program before you start typing. Okay, I hope this is understood. So the program reads in the data from iscore.txt, allows the user to enter a new player name and their score. If appropriate, insert the new player name and score into the top 10, write the top 10 player into a new text file. So we haven't been asked to do anything. It is just an instruction that we must put at the back of your mind that we are going to do that later. Okay, now the question A now states, the program stores the players and their scores in an array of 11 elements. 10 elements to read from the file, 1 element to be inserted by the user. We haven't been asked to write anything. It's still an instruction. So the program we store players and their score in an array of 11 elements, 10 to read from the file. That is, you read 10 from the file and you store 1 to be inserted by the user. We are not writing the code yet. So now look at the question. The question now says write a program. So this is when you start writing a code. The other ones are the instruction, not asking us to write a code. Okay. So when you say write a program, now that is when you are asked to write. Is that understood? So write a program to declare one or more arrays as global data structures to store the player names and their scores. Is that understood? So that is the only thing we are asked to do. So you can say that there are lots of information, but the only thing we are asked to do is just to declare an array. Okay, so if you have been typing, then you will be lost when you get to this point because you'll be doing what you are not expected to do or what you are not asked to do. So you must understand this. Okay, now write a program to declare one or more arrays. So the question does not say more arrays, does not say two, does not say three. It doesn't give a limit. It says choose the one that is comfortable for you. So that means if I like, I may declare two arrays. If I like, I may declare one array. If I like, I may declare four arrays. Is that understood? But some students will think of declaring two arrays because we have two variables, the player and score, two things to be stored. A student like me, because I am not that very smart like some students, I will decide to declare only one array because the question never says one or more array. If the question never says two arrays, it says only one array. So if I'm working with one array, it makes it I'm more comfortable because I'm not that smart. If I have two arrays, then I need to use more functions and I may get lost on the long run. So as a student like me, who I'm not as smart as other students, I will like to work with one array because working with one array means I will have lesser code to write. Working with more arrays means I will have more code to write. I hope you understand. So as a student who is not as smart as others, let me declare only one array. Is that understood? So that one array will store the player names and their what and their scores, and that should be in the main program. Is that correct? Yes, that should be in the main program. So, and I told you that whenever you're writing the main program, always put it what in the function. So I write def main. Okay. So we have to declare an what an array. Then I can say player global, a global variable. Okay. Um, no, I don't have to put this in the main function first. The question never says main function. So let me just write global. Okay, because it doesn't say main program. So let me follow what the question is saying. It never say main program. So this is global player names. Okay. Now writing global player names does not mean this is an array. You must initialize it to an empty array because in Python, these player names may be an integer, it may be a decimal, it may be a string, it may be anything, it may even be a dictionary. But the value you assign to it determines the data type of this variable. So to now complete this, I must write this player names is equal to, now Python understand this is a list. Is that understood? If I don't write this, then I must write it later. If I don't write later, then I might expect to have some issues when my code runs because it will be difficult if you're writing Python player names, it won't be expecting it to be a list or a dictionary. It will be expected to be like a variable, a string, or an integer or whatever. But with this, it has been clear to my IDE that this is what this is a list. It's an empty list. So don't forget to comment because when you're working on with your Cambridge exam and with Python, you have to always comment. So you must write the global array to store 10 player names and what and their score. Okay, then I write this as global array to store 11 let me see player names and their scores. It is understood. Now you can get that 2 marks. If not, you won't get the full 2 marks. Okay. Now B. That is question 1A. So let me put this, let me just come here. Then let me leave it. I don't know how to write 1A or 1B. So you need to copy that to your evidence document. The procedure with I score Now we need another procedure. And to declare procedure, we write def, right? Read I score. Does it require a parameter? The question never says it requires a parameter. So don't pass a parameter because the question never says requires a parameter. Okay. Now, read data into the data structure. What is the data structure? The variable we have declared, which is the what? Which is the player name. Okay. So it reads this text file into the data structure. So we must read and save. So write program code to declare procedure read icon. So that means we need to write program for what? For read icon. And what does it do? It reads data from iscore.txt and save it into the what? Into data structure. Is this understood? So how do we do that? Very simple. First and foremost, we must try to read. You must try to read. Then throw an exception if it couldn't read. Okay? So then write try. Okay, like I told you in previous videos, always use with open to read so that you don't always need to close when you use with open. But if you don't use with open, then you must close. Okay, with open, I score dot text. Okay, then whether you write read mode or not, it is already in read mode. I've explained that in some videos I've uploaded before now. So like I said in the previous video, and I'm saying it again now, that when you open for read, it has already been read. So you can do anything with this file. Okay. Now we are supposed to read every line into what? Into the data structure. And data structure is what? Is the player name. Then we write. So for line in file. As this takes each line in the file. Line is not a keyword, it's just a variable. That means it takes each of the elements in the file and each line. So you can even say for X in file, it just take each of them, each of the data in that file. And file has been opened as an object as what? As i.text. So i.text is open as an object file. So this is the object handler handling file iscore.text. Is that understood? Then don't forget that iscore.text is like this. It has some new space character because after FYI is typed, there is an enter before 10,000 is typed, enter. That enter is a new line character. So we don't need it in our array. So you must strip it. You must remove it. Is that understood? Before you now reading that data into the array. Is that understood? So we have to write this, that to strip each of the new line character and the new line character in each of the text or each of the elements, then we write that line is equal to line dot strip. So this remove all the new characters. So it takes this first line, remove the new character. Okay. Then it goes to the next line, remove the new character. Goes, remove the new character. That is what it does one by one. Then we write this as player names dot append. What are we appending? Line. Is that understood? So this has been read. So what would this do? This will take for line in file. It takes the first line because when you open it for read, the file has been read. Is that understood? And it reads this line by line. Is that understood? So when I say for line in file, like I said, line is not a keyword, it's just a variable, while file is the object handling this word, this text file. So it goes to the first line. When it goes to the first line, don't forget the first line has an enter, that is the new line character, okay? Then line equals to line dot strip does what? Removes the what? It removes the new line character from that element. Then player names dot append. Then it appends into what? Into the player name. Why are we using append? We're using append because player name is empty. It has no value. If it wasn't empty, we would have replaced whatever was there with the value. But now that it was empty, we need to use dot append, okay? Then it goes, because we're using line, we are using for loop. It goes to the next line. Take 10,000, remove the new line character, okay? Then put it in the next available space in the what? In the array. It goes, it goes, it goes until it gets to the end of 5. Is that understood? So now that we are done, don't forget we try to read. Then we have to throw an exception if there was any error while reading. So we throw an exception as whatever, anything variable, then you print what? The error message. Is this understood? So that is it. That is all. It's as simple as that. So that is the end of the 6 marks. You've gotten your 6 marks free of charge. It's as simple as that. Just free of charge. 6 marks is gone. So can you see the reason why I didn't use two arrays? If I have used two arrays, I need to read the player names, and player names are in the odd position. Player score are in the even position. So I need to read all the odd position into one array and also read all the even position into another array, which will require more lines of code. Writing more lines of code means I will have to spend more time. Spending more time writing more line of code under an examination condition, time factor, and duress will lead me to making more mistakes. And making more mistakes means I will lose more marks. And losing more marks means I am liable to get 0 or not getting a grade I am satisfied with, or that does not reflect my ability. So as a student who is not smart, like I said, like others, since the question never said declare 2 arrays or 3 arrays, what it just said is declare 1 or more. Then I'm comfortable with more, 1. Do you understand? So that was the reason why I used 1. So you can learn from me, but if you think you are so smart and you can work with 2, it's fine. Work with 2 arrays, read all the odd position into one array, read all the even position into another array. And with that, you've made your day. Is that understood? So whichever method you use or whichever way you try, just make sure you solve the question correctly. Is this understood? I hope this is understood rather. So question 1C. So let's move to question 1C. Question 1C now says, the procedure output I scores. Then I have to write, like I said in the previous videos, when you're writing a private function, always redeclare your global variable. Okay? So global player names. Okay. Now the next function, the correct question is now output I score. So as a def output I score. Does it require any parameter? No, it doesn't require any parameter. So we don't have to always put a parameter if the question does not say it outputs a parameter. Now the question asks if we don't have to put a parameter if the question never says it requires a parameter. Is that understood? Now, output all the values in the data structure. So everything is outputted. So you're thinking of printing player names, right? So before I do, let me just declare global, then player names. So you're thinking of printing player names, isn't it? But the question is not asking us to do that, although it asks us to output all the values in the data structure. But it gave us a format. What is the format? Player name, score. Player name, space, score. Player name, place, score. Space, score. Can you see? Instead of, do you know that this will write the values in the text file into the array side by side. That is FYI, 10,000, ABC, 1992, is that understood? Side by side. But the question never wants us to output it that way. It wants us to output the player name, the score, then new line, another player name, the score, new line, another player name, the score. Is that understood? So how do we do that? It's also very simple. It's also very simple. So what do you do? Now, first and foremost, we need to have a for loop that will link all the elements in what? In the array. Is that understood? Then I say for I in the range of what? In the range of the length of player names. In the name of the length of player names. Okay? So what this I does? It takes each element, it goes to each position, right? Now, if I write this, imagine I want to print the first and the second, isn't it? Remember, I want to print the first and the second side by side. Is that understood? So let me declare another variable to hold the first position, then another variable to hold the second position. Okay, then I can say that player, or let me say name, is equal to player names, player names, player names I. What will I do? Player names I will hold the value, we take the value of the first position and save it into name, right? Then score is equal to player names, then I plus 1. So the second value will be saved as score. Is that understood? Then I have to write print format, okay, then name, then space, sorry, no comma, space, space, score. Very simple. So print name score. Oh, this is wrong here. So can you see? It prints the value of the name, then space, value of the score. But you think we are done? No, we're going to have a problem. But according to what we've written, according to what I have written, I am correct. Because name, it let's analyze what this is. Because before you continue, you must try and analyze what you have written to be sure of what you have written. It takes I equals to 0. When it takes I equals to 0, then it places player name 0 into name. That is, the first value goes to name. Player names 1 goes to score. The second value goes to score. Don't forget I was still 0. Then it prints name space score. We are fine, isn't it? Then it goes back and take I equals to 1. Then it prints. Then it takes name as player's name 1. Don't forget that player's name 1 was the score that has already been taken. So let's take, for example, that player name has this array. Let's say 5, 7, 9, for example. If this is the array of player name, okay, if this is the array of player name, when I was 1, when I was 0, then it's in this position, right? I think I need to write this. Let me write this so that we can visualize it properly. So what I was trying to say is, let's take, for example, this is the array player name. The array contains FYI, right? 1000, A, B, C, then 90 whatever, maybe 9092, and so on and so forth. So back to our code. The code says I in range length of player names. That means I starts from 0 to the length of player names, right? So it starts from, so I equals to 0. When I equals to 0, name is what? Player names 0. So that means name is equal to FYI. Okay. Then score is equal to player names what? I plus 1, which is player names 1. That means score is equal to 1000. Is this understood? Then I printed name score. Then it prints FYI, also prints 1000. We are done with that, right? Then it goes back and take what? I equals to 1. Then it goes back to I equals to 1, which is now the second. No, this is 0, 1, 2, 3, and so on, right? It was done with the 0 position. Now it is now at the second position where the value is now 1000, right? So when I is equal to 1, what is player name? Name is what? Player name 1. So that means name is player name what? 1, which is 1000, which is what? Wrong. Because name cannot be 1000. Name should be what? Name should be ABC and not 1000. It has taken 1000 initially. So are you thinking what I'm thinking? What I'm taking is I need to go in step of 2. So instead of going from I equals to 0, I equals to 1, I equals to 2, I need to go from I equals to 0, then I equals to what? 2, then I equals to what? 4, isn't it? I need to go in step of 2 instead of going in step of 1. Is this understood? Because for I equals to length of what? For I equals to a range of length of player name, that will go from 0, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, which will give us this issue that we just encountered now. Okay, which will give us this issue that we what? That we just encountered now. But if I have gone in I equals to 0, I equals to 2, I equals to 4, then I won't encounter this problem. Is that understood? Because when I equals to 0, name is equal to what? Player name 0, isn't it? So name equals to FYI. Then score is equal to what? Player name 0 plus 1, which is 1, which is 1000, isn't it? So when it goes to the next step and I equals to 2, then name will be what? Player name what? Player name 2. And what is player name 2? ABC, isn't it? Then score is equal to what? Player name what? 2 plus 1, which is player name 3, which is what? 9092, isn't it? Then it goes to I equals to what? 4. It skips 3, then goes to 4 until it gets to the what? To the length of player names. Is that understood? So what I'm trying to tell you is that whenever you write your code, try and analyze your code before you go to the next question. If you don't analyze your code before you go to the next question, you won't know there is an error. Then when you get to the end and you print and you see an error, you start coming back to analyze what you're supposed to have done. You come back and do it. Is that understood? Or you don't even know what to do, then you are lost. So how do we go in steps? Don't forget, range can be used in step. So how can we do that? Then you just type that when you write range of 4, this goes from 0 to 3. Is that understood? When you write range of 0, 4, this also goes from 0 to 3. But when you write range of 0, 4, then 2, then this goes 0, it skips 1, 2, it skips 2, then that is all. It won't get to 3 because it can never get to 4. Okay, when you write range of 0, 10, 2, then what would this do? Then this starts from 0, it skips 1, goes to 2. This 2 means step up 2 in 2 steps, in a step of 2. That is what it means. Then it goes 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, then that is all, because it won't get to 10. Is that understood? If you want it to get to 10, then you have to write what? 11. Is this understood? So that means we have to type dot, type this is range of 0, length of names, and what? 2 in that step. Is this understood? Is this understood? Sorry, I was asking a rhetorical question. I hope this is understood. Now, good. But are we going to have a problem on the long run? Are we going to have a problem on the long run? So having understood that, let's try and check if we don't have anything missing. Okay? Because I'm looking at this length of names. What does that implies? Let's work with a small array. Whenever you are trying to analyze, always work with a very small array. Okay? So let's assume I have this array, like I have explained earlier. Let me clean this. Okay. Let me clean this so that I can use that space again. Okay. Now, with this small array, this array has the length is 4, isn't it? Because that is 1, 2, 3, 4. So when it starts at I equals to 0, when I equals to 0, it takes the two values and prints these two values, right? When I equals to 1, then it prints these two values. I think that is fine. I don't need to write -1. So, isn't it? I don't need to write -1. If I have length at 6, then I have two more values. When I is 0, it means these two values, right? Oh, sorry, I need to write minus. Sorry, I made a mistake. Let's start it again. When I is 0, it prints these two values, right? When I is 0. Then it goes to I equals to 2 because it's going in step of 2, right? It prints these two values. Then it goes again, that is I equals to 2. Will it get to I equals to 4? No, because length is 4. Okay, let's assume length is 6. We have another two extra values, right? When I equals to 0, it prints these two values. When I equals to 2, it prints these other two values. When I is equal to 4, because I will get to 4, because length is 6, isn't it? When I equal to 4, it prints these two other values. Will I get to 6? No, because length of 6 means 0 to 5. Length of 4 means 0 to 3. That means we are fine. Then this is doing what is expected of us to do. I hope this is well understood. If you have any question, just put it in the comment, then I will reply to that. Okay, good. Then this should be done. Okay, this should be done. Now, let's save our program and move to the next one, the main program. Then let me write a function for what? For main. Okay, let me write a function for main, def main. And in my global variable, global player names, okay. Now, the main program should first call read iscore, then read iscore. Nothing is returned, so we don't need to save in a variable. And then output iscore. Output iscore. Nothing is returned, so we don't need to save into a variable. That is D. We're done. Then test your program. Okay? So to test our program, we need to first call the main function, right? It needs to be called main. So the reason why I need to write main in the function is because in the other questions, I'll be asked to amend the main function. So I'll just come to the main function to write anything I want to write. Then I will always call main after everything has been written, okay? So let's run our code. Now, can you see that? I hope this is understood. Which satisfy the requirement of the question. The question says FYI space 10,000, ABC 9092, and so on. So everything has been printed side by side. I hope this is well understood. So that is exactly what we have done. So let's move to the next question. So anything you want to type should be before main, okay? The main function called. So anytime you want to amend the main function, just go and amend so it doesn't affect. So I've explained the reason in some videos uploaded before now. Okay, 1E. It states the main program. So can you see the main program? Let's go back to the main function. The main program. Have we been asked to type? No. So we need to be patient, okay? The main program needs to ask the user to input a new player name and a score. So user, give me a new player name, give me a score. If this score is in the top 10, it will create a new top 10 list that includes this score. Have we been asked to write anything? The answer is no. So don't start typing. But it's just an instruction on what we are going to do in question E. But we haven't been asked to type. So most students will start typing. When they now see the question, they are confused. So don't start typing. So let's go to the question. Amend the main program. Then the question is now saying something now. Amend the main program. So main program, we need to amend. So ask the user to input a 3-character player name. So the user must input a 3-character player name. Is that understood? So that means we must validate and we must make sure that the player name is what? Is 3 characters. This is compulsory. Because what if the player enters 5 characters? So we must validate. Is that understood? So how do we do that? Then we write name is equal to input, enter a 3-character player name. Okay. Now, whatever the user inputs will be saved as what? As input. Okay. If it's saved as input, we need to validate. Is that understood? Then we'll come back here and say why the length of what? Of name. Because the length of name will return the length of the character the players as what? As given to us. Why the length of name is 3 character is not equal to 3. Is this understood? Why it is not equal to 3? They will continue to ask that guy, which is the user, to give us 3 inputs. The character name, the player name must be 3 characters. Please re-enter. Is this understood? Please re-enter. So what does this do? It asks the user, enter a 3-character player name. Whatever will be inputted will be saved as name. Then it checks the length of name, if it is 3 or not. If it is not 3, maybe it is 1, maybe it is 0, maybe it is 4, maybe it is 5. Once it is not 3, it stays in that while loop. Then it asks again, give me again, re-enter. It checks, re-enter, it checks until it is 3. Once it is 3, then it leaves the while loop. Is that understood? Then the first name has been changed to the new name. But if it was 3 in the first place, it checks if it is 3. If it is 3, it doesn't even enter the while loop and leaves. So that is how that will work. So that has been validated. So it says amend the program name to input a 3-character player name. This has been done. An integer score, which must be between 1 and what? 100,000. So you must also enter an integer score as well. So you now say score. We'll do the same thing again. Is equal to input, enter the score between 1 and 100,000 inclusive. Is that understood? So we need to validate. Okay. So while what? While the score, score must be 1 and above. So y score is less than 1. That is, if it is not 1. Okay, y score is less than 1 and score is greater than what? 1,000. I need to check if I'm right. Okay, y score is less than 1. As I can't use and, I need to use or score is greater than 10,000. That means if the score is, let's take for example 0, it is not satisfied. So score is not between 1 and 100,000. Okay, not 10,000, but 100,000. Yeah. So if the score is 0, for example, then it check if the score is if score is 0, it look at the 2 conditions and says that, oh, score is 0, we don't want. If the score is 5,000, so the score is not less than 1, and the score is also not more than 100,000. That is satisfied. So I think both or and and should work in both cases. So let me use and. I think that fits it more. And fits it more. So it checks both. Okay. If the score is 5,000, it checks. Is it less than 1? No. Is it more than 100,000? No. then we are good. But if the score is 1 million, is it less than 1? No. But is it more than 100,000? Oh, more than 100,000, we don't want. I hope you understand. Then it should ask again. It should ask again. It should continue to ask. So and fits more. Okay, it should continue to add input the score should be between this. Okay, then please re-enter. Is that understood? So if that score is not, then it should not accept. It should continue to what? To remain in that while loop until everything is fine. Once it is fine, then the value of the previous score will be changed. It will now be the value of the new score. So if that score was, let's take for example 5,000, it checked these two conditions. It saw that, oh, the value satisfies these two conditions. That the value is not less than 1 and it is not more than what? 100,000. So it skips, it doesn't enter. So the value of score still retains the value. So score is score. But if the value of score is, let's take for example 1 million, it checks this. It saw that it is not less than 1. It is not less than 1, so I need to use or. So that means I was wrong. So one of two, not and. One of two should be right. It checks 1. The value is not less than 1. That is satisfied. It now check 100,000. Oh, the value is more. No, never. I don't want. Give me another one. If value is 0, it checks. Oh, the value is less. Oh, I don't want. Give me again. It continues to be in this loop until score is now, let's take for example 5,000. So value is less than 1. Yes, it is satisfied. Value is even greater than, is not greater than this, is satisfied. Then it takes that value. So now we have been able to validate and answer that question. I hope this is understood. So I hope you understand the reason why I use or and not and. You see that in the first place I use and. I saw that it will fail. Then I have to use or to prevent it from failing. So whenever you write your code, try and analyze it and try and understand what you've written. So let's go back to the question. So the question states, oh, question I. Now we're fine. We're done with I. Question I is write program code to declare a procedure. So we need another procedure. So we need to leave the main program and write another procedure. But the name of the procedure is not given. So we can give it any name we are comfortable with, okay? So let's give it a name, procedure. So df procedure. So the question is, does it require any parameter? So let's go back to the question to check that. Takes the player name and score as parameters. So it's taking two parameters. So let's call it new name and new score. Okay. So this variable is a local variable to this procedure. It has nothing to do with the other procedures. Okay. So new name and new score as the new parameter. So the question states that create a new top 10 list that includes the parameter if appropriate. So, and you remember we read it earlier that if the score in the top 10, if the new score entered is in the top 10, it creates a new top 10. So what does that mean? So let's take for example, let me clean this. Let's take for example, let me go back to this I score. These are the top 10 lists, right? FYI is a name, 10,000 is the score in descending order. So if we have a new score and a new name, it checks only the scores. Okay, these are 10 scores and 10 names. It checks the score. So let's take, for example, we have a new score of, let's say 3,000. This is a new score. Then it checks the first element. Is it more than 3,000 or less? It says that the 3,000 is not up to this value. Okay, then it goes to the second, not up to. not up to, until it gets to this point. Okay, when it gets to the last point, 3000 is now more than this last element. So what you're supposed to do is to replace this element with the new one. So we shouldn't have more than 10. It should not add to it. Do you understand? But if the new value is, let's take for example 5000, okay, then it has to check 5000. Okay, 5000 is too small. Let me say 9000. If it is 9000, it checks this. This is still more than 9000. It checks this. Oh, 9000 is more than this. So what you should do is move all this value down, put the 9000 and the name in that position, and throw the last element away. So let's illustrate that. So let's take, for example, we have an array. The old array, the array was FYI 10,000. Okay. The next is ABC 9092. Then KEL, then 8,500, and so on. Okay. Then we are bringing a new value, ISM, let's say ISM 9000. Then it should compare 9000 with this value. Is 9000 more than this value? No. Then create a new array. Since 9000 is no more than this value, then put this value in this position in the new array. The two values. Then compare this and this again. Is it more than this value? The answer is no. Since it is no, put these two values in the what? In the next position. Okay, in the next two position. ABC 9092. I hope this is understood. Then it checks 9000 with the next element. So it realized that 9000 is more than the next element. So since 9000 is more than the next element, so we put this value in the next element in the new array. So this is the old array. This is now the new array. So we put this in the value of the new array. So we say this is ISM 9000. Is this understood? Then put the remaining values in the other spaces. Is that understood? That becomes KEL 8500. Then we continue in the number of times that won't include the last element. So that means if the elements in this array is 10, that means we have to do this 10 times. We have to do this 10 times. So doing this 10 times, remember that we've inserted this new value here. It continues with the number of times, then the last element in this array will not be included. Then this will be the new array. So I hope this is understood. If there's any problem, you can drop your question in the comment section so that I can re-explain. Let me re-explain again for the last time, okay? So that we get it once and for all. What I'm saying is, if this is an old array, then we create a new array. We compare 9000 with 10,000. 9000, then we check is 9000 greater than the value in the even element. Is that understood? Even elements. No, this is odd, even, odd, even. Okay, this is first, second. That is even element. Okay, so it checks if this is more than this. Is it more than? If no, then put this in the new array, 10,000. Is that understood? Then it also compares this with the next value. Is that understood? Is it more than this? No. Put it in the new array, 9092. Then it compares this with this. Is it more? Oh, it is more than that. Then it have to put this in that position, ISM 9000. Then after doing that, then put the remaining value in the other spaces. Is that understood? That means it must follow that for loop and do it the number of times it was doing this. Is that understood? So that the last element will not be included. So let's write that as a code. So we'll go back to Visual Studio. Um, then the first thing to do is check if the new score, this is the new score, which is the 9,000, and ISM is the new name, 9,000 is the new score. So we need to check if the new score is greater than the old score. And you know old score is already in the array, right? So let's bring out the old score. So we can say old name is equal to, the array is player names, right? Player names, player names. Okay, before I do that, I need to loop through the entire, I need to loop through this, the array one by one. So I need for I in range of 0, length of player name. And so you understand why I'm doing this? Okay, because I need to compare the values in the odd, right? So it starts from 0, then jumps to 2, jumps to 4, 0 jumps to 0 jumps to 2, jumps to 4. Okay. So old names will be equal to player I, then old score is equal to player names I plus 1. Okay, so that this value is saved in old name, this value is saved in old score. Okay, I hope this is understood. So now the next thing is we need to check if the second value, which is the old score, if it is less than the new value. Then we'll write that if, still in the for loop, new score, if new score is, if new score is greater than old score, old score, if new score is greater than old score. Okay, so that is the first thing. Is new score more than old score? If it is more than old score, so that means it needs to insert into the new array. It needs to insert the new score, right? You remember? Okay, let's follow this illustration so that we understand. Is it greater than the old score? The answer is no, isn't it? The answer is no. Since it is no, then let me write else. That is, if it is not greater than, then open, then we have a new array that has an empty element. Okay, then I write that new player names, which is a new array, dot append. Okay, so I need to append the player name first before I append the score, right? Then I append old name. Then I also write new player names dot append old score. Is that understood? So following that illustration that I illustrated here, so the first thing is saying, is this value greater than this value? 9,000, is 9,000 greater than 10,000? The answer is no. Then I go to else. Then I insert those two values in the first position of what? Of player. So I'm using append because it is a new array. It goes to I is equal to what? Is equal to 2. So it jumps to the next step, which is now ABC, right? Because this is I equals to 0. So this one is I equals to 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. Right? So when it goes to I equals to 2, because it's going to step 2, old name is what? Player name 2. So ABC is old name. Old score is player's name 3, which is 9092. It checks again. Is new score greater than 9092? Is new score greater than old name? The answer is no. It comes here and still append. So it's append. So we have this has been appended initially, isn't it? FY1 and what? And 10,000. It now appends the two new values as well, the two old values as well, which is now append old name, append old score. Remember, old name is now ABC, old score is now what? 9092. So those two things will now be appended. Hope that is understood. So now that that is done, what is the next thing? It goes back again, okay? So I equals to what? I equals to 4, because it's going on I in 2 steps. Now I equals to 4. So when I is equal to 4, so old name is now player names 4. And player's name 4 is what? Is KEL. Is that understood? So KEL becomes the old name. So old name is KEL. So old score is player name 5. 4 plus 1 is 5. So that means old score is what? Is 8500. So it checks old name, new score. Is it greater than old score? What is the new score? 9000. What is the old score? This, is it greater than? Yes, it is greater than. Then this if statement is now true. Is that understood? It is greater than. If it is greater than, what is the first thing we want to do? We want to put the new score in that position. Okay, we want to put the new score in this position. Instead of putting this and this in this position, we want to put the new score. Then we write new player names dot append new score. New name first before the new score. New player names dot append new score. So new name first, then new score. So what has it done? Then it has now put ISM, then 9000. So remember, this was still saved in old name and old score. These two values were still saved in old name and old score, isn't it? So after doing that, the next thing is now to insert append the two new values in the new position, the old values rather. To append them so I put KAL and what? 8500 in the next two positions, right? Then I write new player dot append old name. Okay, then new player names dot append then old score. I hope this is understood. So now KAL and 8500 has now been appended. Okay, so after this appended, what is the next thing? We should continue appending the others. What are the others? The others are PAI H2O3. The others are PAI H2 H203. Then we should continue to append others without comparing. Are we supposed to compare 9000 with H2O3 again? 9000 and ISM has been inserted. It has been inserted in the new array. So we no longer need to compare any longer. So we need to continue from this point, okay, and just append the remaining into the new array. I hope this is understood. So we can't continue comparing because after comparing, we've inserted the new value. So we should not continue comparing. We should just continue to insert. So that means we need a for loop to insert the remaining items. Okay, we need for loop to insert the remaining items. So if this is greater than this, then I will now need a for loop. Is that understood? Don't forget that this for loop is not done, so I need a for loop for this. Is that understood? So I need to write another for loop and say that. So before I write another for loop, don't forget that I still remains what? 4. I still remains 4. In the previous one, I still remains 4, which is taking KEL, and I plus 1 is 5. So I should no longer be 4. I should now be what? Should now be 6. It should go to the 6th element. Is that understood? So if I should be 6, so I should take another variable and say that j is equal to I plus 2. So that is I should no longer be 4 and it should not be 5. So I should go to the next step. So j is equal to I. I can also use I and say I equals to I plus 2 or j equals to I plus 2. It's the same thing. Then I write for j in the length of, okay, for j in length in range, for j in range of, so I need to start from sixth position, okay, for j in range of what? The length of player names. So let's take a look at what we have done now. So this will just go from the range of 0 to what? To player names, which is absolutely wrong. If player name is 10, it starts from 0 to 10. It's not supposed to start from 0 to 10. It's supposed to start from 6 to, okay, 6 to the last element. So it should be for j in j, comma, start from the sixth position. Okay, start from the sixth position. I hope this is understood. So after starting from the sixth position, it should continue to go because this was actually running from 0 to length of player name, which is 0 to 20. So this should continue from sixth position to 20th position. Okay, so it should go from j to length of player names. So instead of player names, it should now be length of player name minus 2. Why is it minus 2? You should ignore the last two elements because one element is now inserted. So ignore the last two elements. I hope this is understood. So let me recap. At first, it starts from I equals to 0. When it starts from I equals to 0, old name is player name 0. So let me clean this and give the array again so that I can show it in the clear picture. So this is what is doing. So this is the array. I've written it out here. So let's assume our new value is 9,000. ISM 9,000. So at first, it starts from I equal to 0. So when I is equal to 0, so old name is player names 0. So old name is now what? Is now player name 0, which is what? FYI. And old score is what? Player names 1. So old score is 10,000. Then it compares if new score, which is 9,000, if it is more than what? Old score, 10,000. Then value is false. It comes here. Then it appends in the new array, old name and old score. So it writes FYI, then 10,000. Okay? It goes to I equals to 1. When it gets to I equals to 1, old name is, sorry, not I equals to 1 because we are going in step of 2. So it goes to I equals to 2 and no longer I equals to 1. Okay, now I will be equal to 2. So what is old name? Player names 2. What is player names 2? A, B, C. Old score, player names 2 plus 1, which is 3, which is what? 9092. Then it compares. Is new score greater than old score? New score, is it more than old score? The answer is no. Since the answer is no, it comes to else, isn't it? Then it appends old name and old score in the new array. So it becomes A, B, C and 9092. Then what is the next thing? I equals to 4 because it goes in step of 2. So I will be equal to 4 now. Okay, so I is equal to 4. So now that I equals to 4, this is 4 because this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and so on and so forth. Okay, now I is now equal to 4. So since I equals to 4, old name is player names 4. So what is old name? That is KEL. New name is what? Player's name 5, which is 8,500. Now it compares. Is new score greater than old score? New score greater than old score? The answer is yes. Since it is yes, then it appends the new score to the new array. So it appends the new score, which is now ISM. Okay. Now appends what? The new name first, then the new score. Appends the new score. And the new score is what? 9,000. After doing that, what did you now do? Append the whole score. What is the whole score? At 4. KEL. Don't forget. KEL. Also append what? The whole score, which is now what? 8,500. Is this understood? Then after doing that, it is supposed to start at the 6th position, right? But we don't want to compare any longer because we are not supposed to compare any longer because it has been compared and inserted. So we shouldn't compare. So it should start at I equal to 6. So now that was why I said J is equal to I plus 2 because I was initially 4. So I plus 2 is now 6. That means J is equal to 6. Is this understood? So that means J is equal to 6. Okay, so J is now equal to 6. So we're now saying for J in range of J to length of this. So that means J, the range will now start from 6. Is that understood? 6 to length of player name. Length of player name, remember it was 20 because we have 20 items in player name. But if we say length of player names, what does that imply? It means it goes from 6 to 20. But it should not go from 6 to 20 because it should not take the last two elements. Because we have inserted a new two elements, it should push away the last two elements. So that was why I wrote 20. So it should go from 6 to what? 6 to 18. Okay, so that is the reason why I have length of player's name minus 2. Do I need to go in step of 2? The answer is no, because I am just inserting. I will just continue to insert. So I don't need to go. Do I need to do that? Yes, I think I need to do that. Okay. Yes, I need to do that. I need to go in step of 2. I hope this is understood. Okay, it depends on how we think. It's not compulsory because we are just appending. So if we are just appending the new name before the name before the score, that is old name, the name rather before the score. That is just the only thing we need to append. So we don't need to go in step of 2. It's not compulsory. Okay. So at this point, we now understand the reason why we're going to J to length of player names minus 2. So this is now understood according to this illustration. Okay. It will go from 6 to 18. Okay. Now then we'll now write that new player names dot append. So what are we appending? Don't forget, we should append the 6th element in the old array, right? Then that should be player names of what? Of the 6th element. And what is the 6th element? J. Is that understood? Player names of the 6th element. So that is all. So it goes to the 7th element, right? So it goes from J equals to 6. J equals to 6. When it gets J equal to 6, it appends what? It appends PAI. So PAI comes into the new array. Is that understood? Goes to, so it goes to J equals to 7. When it gets to J equals to 7, it appends player name 7. And what is player name 7? 8203. I hope this is understood. Then it goes to J equals to 8. What is player name 8? BBB. It goes to J equals to 9. What is player name 9? 798. Can you see the reason why we don't need to go in step? It just continues. It continues until it gets to the 18th element. Then everything is now append to the new player. So the new player, which is now the new array, now has the full element. Now, this is now the problem. When it is done, okay, when it is done, what is the next thing? When it is done, don't forget that I stops at what? I stops at what? I stops at 6. So that means it now go to I equals to 7 in this for loop. Because when I was, sorry, not even 6, I stops at 4. When I was 4 was when it got into this loop. When it's out of this loop, it will want to go into I equals to what? I equals to the next step. We're not supposed to do that. We're supposed to break out of the loop. So now we have to break out of the loop. We shouldn't complete this for loop because now this for loop has completed the new array. Then it needs to break out of this loop so that it doesn't continue with this loop. Okay? So immediately after we are done with this for loop, then we should break so that it breaks out of this for loop. Okay, if we don't break out of this for loop, then I goes to 6. If it goes to 6, then it starts again to compare, which is absolutely wrong. Then it disrupts the new array. So break means get out of loop after everything is done. Okay, so now that everything is done, now that everything is done, then we can now copy the element of the new array out of the for loop, the original for loop. After everything is done, after it has break out of this for loop, then we can now copy the element of the new array into the old array. Then I write that player names is equal to new player names, which is now complete. So now the element of the old array has been replaced by the element of the new array. Now I have my new array. I hope this is understood. So now that we are done, now we are going to encounter some issues. This local variable does not have the global variable. So we need to redeclare the global variable in this local variable. So we need to redeclare global player names, okay, so that it can access that global variable. Apart from that, we need to declare the new player name as a what? As a global variable, okay? So that becomes global new player name so that it is accessible by other functions out of this function, okay? So we also need to go to the main program to declare the global variable new player names, or else it won't work in the main program, okay? So likewise, we also need to go back to output I score also to declare the new what is it called, the new array new player names, okay? So we also need to come to the first variable we declared and also declare the new player name, the new player names, okay? New player names, so which is now new new player names, and also initialize it as an empty array. So new player names is equal to, so now we won't have that issue of global variable, because if we don't do that, the new player name we declared in the new function will be a local variable in that function. It won't be accessible by other functions out of that new function. I hope this is understood. So let's move forward. Now that I've been able to solve that problem, let's move forward. So what is the next question? The next question states, amend the main program. So we need to amend the main program. So the main program, remember, these are main program. So amend the main program, output the content of the array before inserting the new player and score. So if you look at this, the content of the array is already there. Output I score. Remember, this is the function that outputs the content of the array. So the question states that output the content of the array before inserting the new player name and score. So which has been done here. So the question also says output the content of the array after inserting the new name and score. So this function, this line of code inserts will ask for the new name and also ask for the new score. So we need to output the content of the array after the new name and score has been added. So that means we need to call the procedure, the new procedure. So we call procedure and pass the new name that you ask from the user and the score you ask from the user as a parameter. So then name score. Is it understood? So that has been passed. So after passing that, that means it will add this into the array. Then we also need to call the function output I score. Okay. So that means the array was outputted before this was inserted, and after this was inserted, the array is now inserted. That is the reason why we need to copy the content of the new array into player names. Because player names is the array that was used in output I score. Remember, we did not use new player name. We only used player name. Okay, so we use for I in length. So we don't need to write. If you don't want to use that, we have to write another code to output the new player name. Okay, so that means I need to, it's not compulsory. I don't need this. That means I don't need that because I'm still using player name in what? In output I score. So which is the reason I have to copy the value, the content of this array into this array so that I don't need to manipulate this function. Okay, so that has been done. So the question now states that we are done with that. Save your program. Save your program. Now test your output with this. So let's test the output. Let's run. So we are asked to test the output with JKL, JKL, and 9999, 9999. Yes, can you see there's an error? Why is there an error? The error comes from this if statement. If new score is greater than old score, and it's saying greater than not supported between instances of what? Of integer and string. That means we've done something wrong in procedure function. So let's go back to that function, procedure function. This is the procedure function. New score is just a parameter that was passed in. Old score is the parameter from the old array. And remember, the old array will read the content of the text file into that array. And the content of the text file is a string. Whenever you are inputting and outputting, the data type is always a string. So we are inputting from a text file. So that means that data type is a string. Okay. So we are now in the new procedure, we're comparing a string with a value, which is absolutely wrong. So that means before we compare, we need to convert this into what? Into an integer. I hope this is understood. We need to convert into an integer before we can compare. So converting to an integer means we need to compare new score with that value of old score. Don't forget that old score, the player names, anything in player names is a string, which is the reason why we need to convert to an integer before we can compare. So don't forget that new score is also a parameter from the input of what? From the input of the user. So don't forget to also convert that input to an integer so that it doesn't bring the same problem with this input. Okay, so now that that is done, so we can rerun our function. So running our function, so let's run that. Okay, so this is the content of the array before we insert, right? So the question now says JKL 9999. So now JKL 9999. Now let's take a look at the content of the new array. The new array now has FYI 10,000. Can you see? That is correct. ABC 9092. 9999 is more than 9092. So it placed 9999 in that position of ABC. Okay. Then put ABC 9092 in the next position. Then it continues doing that. What is the last element here? The last element in this new array is now EIF 6003. Can you see? It has displaced DIS 2000, which is exactly what the question wants us to do. I hope this is well understood. If you have questions, you can put that in the comments. Okay. So let's take a look at the last question. Yeah, the last question in this number. Now, the procedure. The procedure write top 10. Write top 10. So this is another procedure. So we are writing program code for that procedure. So I can start writing while I'm reading, okay? Because we are writing program code for that procedure. Now, this procedure DEF, the name of the procedure has been given as write top 10. Write top 10. Okay. Source the new, does it have a parameter? No parameter. So we don't have to put a parameter because the question does not say it has a parameter. Now write top 10. Source the new top 10 player name. The new top 10 player. Remember that is now the global the player names, right? So we need to declare that as a global variable in this so that it can access that value. Then we write global player names. So it can be able to access the value of player name out of this function, okay? Global name. And don't forget, you don't initialize as an empty array because player names has a value out of this function, okay? Now, source the new top 10 player names and score in a text file called new iscore.text. Don't forget that player name is just an array that has all the values side by side. Don't forget, it has all the values side by side. It doesn't have the value this way. It doesn't have the value the way we outputted it. It was a function that outputted it in that format. Don't forget. So player name will have the values side by side this way, not FYI 10,000 or ABC 9092. No, it was a function that gave us this way. So don't forget. So the question now says that it it will save that value in a text file. So that means it should save it this in this format of this text file. Is that understood? Save it in a text file. The name of the text file is what? Is new iscore.text, which does not exist. That means we need to open it for append. Sorry, is it append? No, we need to open it for write. Okay, because that text file does not exist, we need to open it for write. Okay, so write program code to create procedure write top 10. Simple. So the first thing is to open it for write. So let's go back to our Visual Studio Code. So we write with open, the name of the text file is now new iscore.text. New iscore.text. As what? As write. Okay, sorry. The mode write as file. Okay. So after doing that, we need to use a for loop. Okay, don't forget that the write we just write file.write, that will write into the file. But we need to write line by line with a new line. Okay, so that means we need to write this first thing into the first line, this into the second line, this, isn't it? Then we use a for loop to be able to loop through the array. So we write for I in range of length of what? Of player names, isn't it? For I in range of switch, that goes for in every position, isn't it? Now, if that goes in every position, then we have file dot write. File dot write, isn't it? File dot write. So what are we writing? We're writing names, player names of what? Player names of I. So let's check our code if this is correct. Okay. Okay, not done. Player names I. Then we have to concatenate with what? Don't forget we are writing a string, right? Then that will be plus, then slash n. We have to concatenate with a new line. Right? The first value, the new line. So I think this is done because this will start from I equals to 0, right? When I is equal to 0, it writes player's name I. It writes FYI. It writes FYI. yi, then plus what? New line. You concatenate it what? With new line. So it goes to the next position. Then it goes to take I equals to 1, which is what? 10,000, and write what? Player names 1, which is now 10,000. It goes and take I equals to 2. Then with the new line, goes to the new line. I equals to 2. It goes to I equals to 2 and write what? Player names 2, which is now ABC, isn't it? With the new line, go to the next line. It takes I equals to 3, which is now what? 9092, and write that 9092, isn't it? Then new line. It continues until it gets to the end of the array. So that is all. Is this understood? So the question now says, save, we've written that, save your program. That is all. So let's save the program. So let's run this file and check. We are not asked to do that, but let's just check if what we have done is right. Because if it is wrong, we will actually lose that mark if it is wrong. But if it is right, we will get the mark. Okay? But we need to check even if we are not asked to check. So let's check. So JKL 9999. So you can see the file has been arranged. So let's check the folder if the file was written. If we want to check if the file is written, we need to go to the where the folder is saved. That is how we know if the file is written, if the file has been created. What is the name of the file? New iScore.txt. So now, unfortunately, when I check the folder, the file is not written. Why? Why is the file not written? Look at. But we go to write code, the correct one. Why? Oh, the reason is because the function, we did not call the function, isn't it? I did not call the function. So we need to call that function, okay? Although the question never asked us to do this, but we just want to confirm if we've done the right thing. So let's call the function in the main program. Okay, so let's call the function in the main program. So we call the function in the main program. So now we can now check if the file is written now that the function has been called. So let's call it and run. JKL 9999. Now, good. Let's take a look at this. We have a problem here. Okay. But apart from this, let's check what has happened, what went wrong. Let's check what went wrong. So this is what went wrong. The error message is unsupported operand types for plus, integer, and string. It says you cannot concatenate integer and string. Can you remember that the score value has been converted to an integer? Okay, the score value has been converted to an integer while we are comparing. Remember, while we are comparing, the score value has been converted. That was the reason we're able to compare. Although the question does not ask us to do this, but if we really want to do this, we need to convert it back to a string before we append it. If not, it will be a problem. Because in this array now, the score value is now and what? Is now an integer value, is no longer a string value. So that is the cause of the problem. But look at new iScore is now written. If you open it, you see FYI, but 10,000 was not written because it was an integer and you cannot concatenate an integer. I hope this is understood. So that was the issue there. So if you want to solve that problem, which is not a requirement in this question, but you can see that the new text file has been created. But if you want to solve that problem, it is not a requirement, so you don't have to do that. Okay? But if you want to know how to do that, first and foremost, we convert it to an integer so that we can compare. So before we append, we should convert it back to a string. Is that understood? So we come back here and convert all score to a string. Then write that new score is equal to string of new score, because when we input as well, it was now an integer, not a string. So old score is equal to string of old score. So that is what we have to do. Like I said, for this question, we don't have to do that because the question never asks us to run the code. The question never asks us to check the output, but for the sake of knowledge, okay, so that in case we want to do that in future, we should understand that we need to convert these two values to a string before we now append. Okay, so I think I need to do that before appending anything, isn't it? Yeah, I need to do that before appending anything. Apart from this, don't forget that we also did the same thing here. So I need to do that before appending here as well. So now everything is fine now. So it should run without a problem. So what I've done is convert to a string before I append. So now everything in the array is now a string. There is no more integer value. Okay, so let's run that now. So now JKL 9999. Okay, now let's check again. Let's check again. What is the problem? Now, this is the problem. Let me tell you what the problem is. You talk that well, we've solved this problem of comparison. Why are we having this problem? So let's take a look at it. For the first time, the new value was not greater. Then it came to else, isn't it? So it checked this condition. The new value was not greater. It comes to else. So while coming to else, don't forget that these values have been converted to string. Then it comes to compare string value. Then there is a problem. You cannot compare string value. So that means we also need this conversion. We also need to reconvert what is it called? Because so like I said, old score is already converted, so only new score has not been converted. So we need to reconvert new score at integer of what? Of new score. So now our problem should be solved. Okay, so that before anything is compared, make sure both new score and old score are integer values. After comparing, convert them to string, append, come back again to the next level of I. When you get to the next level of I, before you do anything, make sure both of them are integer values. So now our problem should be totally solved. Like I said, you don't need to do this according to this question, but you must be able to do this in case the question changes in future. Okay, so let's run this code now. So run. Then we have this as JKL 9999. No more error. All the error has been solved. So let's check the new text file if everything was written. New text file. Look at JKL 9999. Everything is now written completely. So with this, the question has been solved and we've learned something new apart from the question in case a question similar to that is given in future. So thank you very much for your attention. Thank you very much for subscribing. If you haven't subscribed, please don't forget to subscribe and like this video. You can also share to your colleagues and your friends so they can also learn from this. Stay tuned for the next video. Thank you.